Although digital technologies have replaced many of the analog products of my generation, the vinyl LP record, although not as popular as it once was, is still being produced. And baby boomers have held on to many of their favorites. As a result, there continues to be a demand for turntables, with esoteric models at price points into the 5 figures. Now, this new Sony turntable doesn't aspire to meet the needs of high-end audiophiles who might appreciate that price point, nor does it have the features turntablists are looking for, but it does provide 2 features I find both valuable and interesting. First, it's a record player. It can play LP records or albums, which turn at 33 revolutions per minute, and the smaller single-sized 45s, 45 revolutions. Now, not all of the records I saved from the previous millennium have been digitized as CDs, so this enables me to listen to them. The player is simple and elegant. It's a little black dress of record players, understated yet classy. The bass is substantial. It all looks and feels solid with excellent attention to detail. The technology is actually quite fascinating. A minuscule needle rides a tiny groove etched into the surface of the record, and its vibrations are translated into sound. Can't compare with CDs in dynamic range, playing time, ease of access to a specific selection, or other factors, and vinyl is unbelievably susceptible to scratches, quality is diminished with every playing, but vinyl does have a sound quality which remains a benchmark for many listeners. The audio output of the turntable is provided on red and white RCA plugs to connect to an amplifier. Back in the day, all amplifiers and receivers had dedicated preamped inputs for turntables. The cartridge, which holds the needle, generates a very weak signal which requires a preamplifier. If your amp has a phono input, set the switch on the back of the turntable to phono. If not, the HX500 has a built-in preamp to connect to any amp or even powered speakers with RCA connectors. It's activated by sliding the switch to line. Incidentally, if you are using phono, make sure to connect the ground from the turntable to the preamp. That low signal makes it very susceptible to hum. There is a little setup required. Attach the dust cover, spin the platter to see the motor. There's a belt around the bottom of the platter. Slip it over the motor spindle. Place the rubber mat on the platter. It's clear that these are high-quality components to maintain an accurate spin and to isolate the disc from any vibrations. Check to see that the anti-skating dial is at 0, spin the counterweight onto the tone arm, release the clip holding the tone arm in place, and lower the tone arm lifter lever. Turn the counterweight until the arm is balanced and it floats in a level, horizontal position. Remove the protective cover from the cartridge and fine-tune the arm balance. Although the cartridge with its needle can be replaced with Sony or third-party cartridges, it's a sensitive element, so be very protective of it. Rotate the ring, lining up the white line with 0. Turn the ring to 3. That's the right weight for this cartridge. If you change cartridges, set it to the correct value for that cartridge. Rotate the anti-skating control to 3. In order to minimize wear on the record, the counterweight should be as light as possible. Anti-skating maintains a constant pressure on both sides of the groove, otherwise centrifugal force forces the needle into the outer side of the groove. Place the record on the turntable. Clean the record with a record cleaner. Select the speed, and position the stylus over the lead-in groove on the record. Then, lower the lever. There's a spindle adapter for 45s. Now, there's a great deal of satisfaction and participation in listening to LPs. For as much as I know and appreciate that CDs provide superior technical performance, I'm still drawn to the warmth of vinyl, whose response curves and other attributes are fine-tuned to suit our hearing and excite our pleasure centers, not to meet technical specifications. It's not particularly rational, and for me, it's a more holistic and involving experience than playing CDs or streaming. And there's the album cover art. So much nicer than the tiny CD booklets. I also find that typically LPs have or had more or better information about the songwriters and musicians involved on the album, even on the disc itself. And you can have lots of fun with record covers. Listening to LP records is a demanding activity. Every 20 minutes or so, the music ends and the record must be flipped. There's music on both sides, or changed to another record. Leaving it rotate in the playout groove is sure to damage the stylus. And it's the one feature that's missing. Many turntables automatically lift the needle from the groove when the record is over. But I get it, this one's for purists. Not necessary unless you have perfect pitch. It would also be nice to have a strobe display and the ability to make minor speed adjustments. It would also be nice to have a setting to play these 78 RPM discs from my parents' generation. Occasionally, you'll want to clean the stylus with a small, soft brush. Spending an extended period of time listening to LPs is a mostly pleasant experience, but the state of some of my favorite albums renders them nearly unlistenable, with surface noise and more pops and ticks than I can tolerate. Luckily, I did not run into the dreaded skip, where the needle jumps from one groove to the next or gets stuck in a groove. I mentioned that an LP deteriorates with each playing. Even at the lightest possible weight, the stylus heats up the vinyl and wears out the groove. Back in the day, I recorded my LPs onto open-reel tapes or L-cassettes. The HX500 includes a 5.6 MHz DSD analog-digital converter and a USB connector. That's a substantial improvement over L-cassette. Or, in fact, other digitizing turntables with bare-bones USB outputs. Sony provides a free high-res audio recorder desktop app for both Mac and Windows. The app can capture in both DSD, the SACD audio format at 5.6 and 2.8 MHz, and PCM or WAVE, the CD format, at resolutions from CD 44 at 16 or 192 at 24. Press the red button, and once the needle hits the disc, confirm to start capturing. Those settings are sure to capture every nuance and then some, but if there is something indefinable about the analog warmth of vinyl, I'm not sure that the resolution or bit depth of any digital file fully captures that. Still, these are of extraordinarily high quality. After recording, the recorder presents the entire recording in 30-minute chunks. It took me a few albums to get a good workflow for editing. Zoom in and you can pretty much see where each track starts on the waveform. Drop a marker and then use the previous or next button to move the green play line to the marker. Hit play to check and use the cursor keys to nudge the marker until you achieve your preferred level of accuracy. Pause, slide ahead to the next cut, and repeat. Once the markers are positioned, press Write to Files. Enter the album title, artist, and song titles. Then Write to Files. The recorder creates a folder with the individual tracks. These are the best transfers I've heard, but like the turntable, the recorder is Spartan with very few features. Audio levels are preset. The window can't be resized. The playhead only moves forward. There are no keyboard shortcuts. There's no undo. So if you press recording complete instead of pause at the end of side 1, all you can do is curse. Luckily, if you end up in this predicament, saving side 2 with the same name will store side 2 in the same folder, so not so dire after all. The one feature that's missing is a pop and click filter, although I realize that not everyone would want to use it. Recording or ripping LPs is a real-time process, which will take a long time with a substantial collection. It's a labor of love, requiring lots of hands-on involvement. Recording at CD resolution, 44.1 and 16-bit, needs about 1 gig for 30 minutes, the smallest file, while the 192 24-bit setting needs about 4 gigs for 30 minutes. Most LPs are 35 to 50 minutes in length. The HX500 is one more piece of Sony's high-res ecosystem. If you're buying into this, you'll probably want one of their high-res audio hard disk streaming players and the high-res Walkman, a great solution to take your high-res LP rips into the car or for a walk. This is the entry-level A17. It supports WAV files up to 192, but not DSD. And I will say that the analog listening experience isn't for everyone, and that it's particularly unsuited to classical music, or even on pristine discs. I find the quiet passages inevitably overwhelmed by the noise of the needle in the groove, as well as the inevitable and unpredictable static pops. I realize that only a fully blind listening test with several experienced but not too old listeners can fully evaluate and compare the sound of the HX500, its digital files, and a CD. And I enjoy all three of those experiences for values that don't end my choosing the best. It's impossible to convey the specific nuances of audio reproduction in this video, and I detest statements like bright but not brittle. I recommend you to take some of your favorite vinyl discs down to your dealer for a listen. If you have vinyl and want a high-quality turntable with the ability to generate superb quality digital files, there's no equivalent to the HX500. It is a worthy component